What's up, guys? Welcome back to Wrestle Wellbeing. Today, we're doing something a little bit different from what is usual on my channel. Not just talking about suplexes and title changes, diving into something much more personal and, frankly, something a lot of us can relate to. It's the connection between a wrestling fan and our own mental well-being. Super excited to be chatting with my good friend Liam today. Liam, want to say hi?
How you going, mate? You all right? It does actually feel weird, though, because like I said to you before we came in here, I'm normally on that side, but today I'm on this side.
Yeah, it's quite a bit weird, this. It feels as though we're in like a twilight zone, but we've got to say a massive thank you to Liam for coming on the show today. Liam's obviously very successful with his content creating so far with Magic of Wrestling. If you're not following Liam at the minute, what the hell are you doing? Go check him out. I'll put his link to the channel below. So yeah, Liam, as people will know who know Liam and know him through Magic of Wrestling, is a long-time member of the wrestling community in the social media world, on YouTube, and also on Instagram, I believe. Liam, is that right?
We're on Instagram, Twitter, yeah, pretty much everywhere.
Yeah, so I'll get all Liam's links and I'll put them in the description. So today, I'm going to be diving into Liam's experience and insights into what this incredible world of wrestling means to him, and even how it's played a role in his mental health journey. We often talk about the excitement and the entertainment, but today we're going to be diving a lot deeper into the emotional connections, the sense of the community, and the unexpected ways that something we love can actually provide comfort and support during tough times. So if you personally have ever felt a powerful connection watching a match, found solace in a storyline, or just find a sense of belonging within the wrestling fandom, you're definitely in the right place. So let's dive into it. This is Liam's experience in the community, and also let's explore his fascinating side of a shared passion. Let's go.
Can I ask where you got that music from, by the way? Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt there. Can I ask where you got that music from? It's really weird.
No, it's just something that I found on the internet. Literally, I found it. I'm like, yeah, sounds all right. That downloaded it, put it together with the track, and then I'm like, yeah, that's sorted. It's actually that link that you sent me to that app.
Yeah, it's a nice little app and stuff.
I'm like, yeah, using that. Boom, sorted. So yeah, myself and Liam, for those who don't know, we've known each other for well over 10 years, I think now. First met Liam when I was a steward at Barnsley Football Club. Liam was a fan. We kind of like lost contact. I think that's because obviously we went to his own separate ways. Liam started working full time, so did I. And then I believe Liam actually posted something about wrestling, which I've always been a big fan of wrestling too. So I contacted Liam saying, I didn't know you were into wrestling. He's like, yeah, I've been into wrestling for my whole life, this, that, other, blah, blah, blah. So then we got back friends again. And I've got to say, it's probably the best thing that's ever happened to me, because it's really helped myself, not just in my confidence, but also with my mental health as well, because I get to come on Liam's channel near enough every month. Quite a couple of controversial opinions myself previously, Liam, I think will agree, because quite a few times I mentioned Bret Hart in a not so nice format, and people basically slag me off.
Let's just not talk about the Dave Meltzer one either. That got a little bit of a heated one.
Yeah. Let's not dive into that one. So start with the questions, mate. Like I say, you can go as deep into this as you like. Just want to put a quick disclaimer for those who have not read the description. Anything that's said in tonight's show, if you do feel as though it's impacting you personally, because it is affecting you personally, please seek help. There's people out there that are willing to help. You have the Mind Charity, which is quite international. Over in the UK, we have a thing called Andy's Man Club that I'm a facilitator for. You've also got the Samaritans. So if you or anyone you know is struggling, either reach out to them to try and help them, or put them on the right path to fixing their mental health, or at least dealing with their mental health. Anything to say, Liam?
No, I think you said that pretty much well said there, mate.
So, mate, let's get cracking on with the knacking. So, first off, Liam, how and when did you first become a fan of wrestling, and what drew you to it?
Wow, Jesus. So, I mean, I used to stop at my uncle's and stuff like that, and it was the early 2000s. And if you do, you was, oh, you want to watch this? And it was wrestling. And as a kid, you know what I mean? You probably know yourself. You think, oh man, this is awesome. This is really, really good. You know what I mean? Stuff like that. You get invested in stuff like that. Then, yeah, I used to go to borrow the DVDs and stuff like that. We used to watch it and stuff. But I never really understood it. It wasn't until 2018, and that's a bit later, that I started to understand it a little bit more, like what goes into it. I mean, then that's kind of like how all the interviews came about.
Sound mate, brilliant. Yeah, that's quite similar to me actually. Just like watching old VHS tapes of like old SummerSlams and things like that back in the day, and then didn't actually realize how important it was and things like that, like the storylines and what have you. But yeah,
do you actually remember the first ever pay-per-view you watched? Because I do.
Oh God, I can't actually remember the first ever pay-per-view. In fact, the first ever match, proper pay-per-view match I watched was Eddie Guerrero versus Brock Lesnar at No Way Out when Goldberg got involved. That was the like proper full-on match that I actually fully watched.
Mine was King of the Ring. I think it was 2099 when Kurt Angle won the Kurt Angle Shane McMahon street fight.
Oh wow! When he threw him through the plexiglass twice.
That's
because
that was
the first time.
That was the first ever time.
Because Shane's a nutcase.
Yep, that was the first pay-per-view I ever watched. By the way,
that's mental, that mate. Honestly. So yeah, next question, mate. What are some of your earliest and most vivid memories of watching wrestling?
Biker Undertaker, straight to the point. Do you know what I mean? Like coming out obviously to Limp Bizkit, rolling stuff like that. And the weird thing is, it wasn't until you start researching it that you realize, holy shit, there's a whole dead man persona which I've missed. Do you know what I mean? And that's the thing with the power of the internet now. Do you know what I mean? You could learn so much more. Like I said, I knew about the Biker Undertaker. Then obviously when you discover the internet, you get, holy shit, there's so much more. Do you know what I mean? Like the Dead Man thing, the Ministry of Darkness show. The list is probably endless.
Yeah, definitely, mate. I mean, not even going back to when he were in WCW either. I mean, there's even videos of him in WCW with Paul Heyman that nobody like of our generation, when we were first watching, knew about that sort of thing as well.
No, exactly. And it's absolutely me, Mark Calloway. Do you know what I mean? There's so much history in wrestling. Even now, because I got into it late as well. I mean, I'm still learning. Do you know what I mean? And that's the thing with wrestling fans. It doesn't matter when you get into it, and you probably can obviously vouch for this as well. You're always learning.
Definitely, mate. Definitely. It's, every day is a new day, like they say, and every day is a learning curve.
100%, mate.
Fantastic, mate. So, next question. What is it about professional wrestling that continues to hold your interest, and what keeps you coming back as a fan?
So this is kind of interesting because, like I said, when I was younger, you learn about it, obviously as a kid. You don't obviously as a kid you think, oh my God, it's driving through a thing. You don't understand it. So 2014, I did check out of wrestling because the product just wasn't there for me. Do you know what I mean? It just wasn't the best. And we're going to go a bit deeper a little bit now. So 2018, I went through a bit of a bad patch. I'm going to be honest with you. With an ex, I'm not going to name them because I'm too obviously nice like that. But yeah, it messed me up really mentally. And I'm going to be honest with you, but I did consider a lot of things. And I'm being open and honest as I can there. And weirdly, I started obviously looking into AEW and stuff like that. And so the thing is, when I started obviously the podcasting thing, the main goal for me was to build that confidence back. Do you know what I mean? Because if somebody said to me now, 2025, I've spoke to people like Joe Dombrowski, do you know what I mean? Jimmy Corderas, we've got obviously somebody from TNA. Do you know what I mean? The list is endless. I'd have probably laughed at you. So for me, it's like I said, it's building that confidence back.
Definitely, mate. Definitely. Just want to point out, really sorry to hear about that with you, with that person that caused that problem with you, mate. But definitely understand where you're coming from. I'm same as you. Can't remember when it was. I think it were probably 2013, 2014 when I checked out of wrestling, just because, like you say, the product wasn't what I wanted it to be. So not what I wanted it to be, but wasn't at the standard that I thought it could be, sort of thing. So I myself checked out of wrestling as well. So I do understand where you're coming from with that, mate. So next question. Do you have any particular wrestlers or storylines that have deeply resonated with you? If so, what made them so impactful?
Jesus, are you wanting in like the big companies, or are you wanting outside the companies, like obviously in the UK scene? Which one are you wanting?
Could be anything, mate. Absolutely anything you like.
Right, I'll give you a prime example, and it might be a weird one, but it's Otis and Mandy Rose storyline. Do you remember that?
Yeah.
So the weird thing is for that it's got a sense of realism in it. Do you know what I mean? Like the guy who's not the confident guy. Do you know what I mean? Trying to hook up like Joe, the good looking girl and stuff like that. And when you think about it, there's a lot of people out there where they are that type of person who's not got the confidence, and I've always said for me, looks not everything. Do you know what I mean? Personality is probably one of the biggest key things when it comes to me.
Definitely, mate. Definitely. Is there any others? You can pick as many as you like, mate.
I've got loads. I mean, in the obviously UK scene, I mean, obviously fans will know me. Obviously, Spike Travaine, Cara Noir from Progress. There's just so much like it got so personal and stuff like that it really invested me. And anybody who knows me, if they ask me what my biggest feud is in the UK, I will say Spike Travaine, Cara Noir from Progress Wrestling. Go check it out. And little fun fact, by the way, Spike is the number one person I want to get on an interview, but I can't at the minute.
I'm sure you get there, mate. Honestly, you're doing absolutely bits with your channel, mate. It's unbelievable.
Mm-hmm.
So next one is beyond the athleticism and entertainment. What does professional wrestling mean to you personally? Does it represent anything more than just a spectacle?
I mean, wow, that's a good one. For me now, I mean, with the podcasting, the community. Do you know what I mean? The community I've really built and stuff like that. I mean, like people yourself. I mean, I've got so many great friends in wrestling. Even to a point now when I'm doing interviews, I know I've got people where if I'm struggling with like the input, I can go to that person saying, look, we're doing this show, yada, yada. What's your input? And stuff like that. And it's the whole community. And the weird thing is because one of my questions when I interview people is, what's the biggest thing wrestling's taught you? And 9 times out of 10, they always say the community. Do you know what I mean? Going to shows, getting to know people and stuff like that. So it brings everything, full circle.
Definitely, mate. Definitely. I like that answer. That's a good answer, that, mate. So, in what ways does being a fan of wrestling contribute to your life and your sense of community?
I mean, I do a podcast, mate. Do you know what I mean? I don't need to say anything else there. Do you know what I mean? I do interviews through the week. We do shows, obviously, on the Saturdays and stuff like that. But again, it kind of leads back to my previous answer. Like I said, it's the whole community, it's the whole friendship and stuff like that. And it's always like you go into shows, because obviously I travel to like shows in the UK. There's just so many great people and stuff like that. The community is great. The experience is great. And like I said, it's building that, community up again. I think that's the key thing throughout the whole thing.
Yeah, I understand it, mate, completely. So I'm going to get a bit more emotional now, going to get a bit deeper. Wrestling often evokes strong emotions such as excitement, anger, sadness, and joy. Can you think of a time when wrestling made you feel a particular emotion very strongly? What was it about that moment that made that emotion so powerful?
Wow, Jesus Christ, that is a flipping good when you put me on the spot there, man. I mean, the first one that comes to my mind, and it's going back to the Undertaker thing. It's the streak. Do you know what I mean? For me, I mean, I was one of those things when I remember watching it, going, "Oh, what the hell?" Because we always know. Do you know what I mean? WrestleMania for me up to that point was the Undertaker. Do you know what I mean? It was always about that actual streak and stuff like that. And then the biggest thing I've always said is Brock didn't need that. For me personally, he didn't need that. Do you know what I mean? He was still a big name and stuff like that. And rest, as they say, is history, to be honest with you. But yeah, probably the Undertaker's streak.
Yeah, definitely, mate. I completely understand. I'm quite similar with you. We're thinking that Brock didn't actually need that streak sort of thing because he was already a made man, me personally. And this is going to sound really biased because everyone knows that this is my favourite, but I think Bray Wyatt should have won it the year after. And I've actually done the rewrite for those 2 matches. Plug. So, next question, bud, is do you find yourself emotionally invested in the characters and storylines, and why do you think that is?
Oh, Jesus. I think that's the key thing when I go to like your shows in the UK. One of the things I always do is like who's on the card, because obviously I've interviewed a lot of people now. I am familiar with, I won't say all the talent, but like a portion of the talent. So when I go to a show, I look who's on the card. So I'm like, hey, that's so and so, so and so. I know that person is. I've seen them wrestle. These the occasional show where you go, okay, there's a lot of new talent. That's fine. But in the terms of, yeah, I think, yeah, straight to the point. That's all I can say really is yeah.
Straight to the point, mate. That's how I like it. So do you ever find yourself using wrestling as a form of escapism or a way to de-stress? If so, how does that work for you?
I mean, it kind of goes back to what we talked about earlier. Like I said, when I went through obviously that bad patch and stuff like that. And I will be honest, like I said, I was mentally drained. I was feeling so many emotions and stuff like that. Whatever emotion people listen to this can probably think of, I probably felt that just going through that point. And then it was weird because obviously I built the community up, and I just randomly said to one of my friends one of the day, I says, what do you reckon about starting a podcast? Do you know what I mean? Stuff like that. And if you go back and listen to my first ever show, oh my God, I was nervous as shit. I genuinely was, and stuff like that. And it did take me a bit of time to like work out how I wanted to like deliver them. Do you know, like a nice little like chilled environment and stuff like that. And like I said, the more I did them, the more I feel like actually, do you know what I mean? I do feel a bit better. And to expand on that actual story, by the way, the person obviously who messed my head up mentally and stuff like that, she did get back in touch, you know, the last year. But the weird thing was, because I was mentally more stronger. If she'd have got back in touch before that, I'd have probably said a lot of things which I didn't want to say. Do you know what I mean? You can probably imagine, you know, emotions and stuff like that. But because I'd got so mentally strong from obviously the community and stuff like that, I basically approached it a little bit more different. I said, look, you've got your life, I've got my life. Do you know what I mean? But I wish, basically, I approached it a lot different.
Definitely, mate. So that, for me personally, that's like that shows a real strong sense of character, because obviously a few years ago, if she'd have gone back in touch, you'd have been quite emotional. You probably would have said a couple of things that you probably shouldn't have said, if I'm right in saying that. But now that obviously you've grown as a person, obviously you've got a lot of confidence with doing your podcast with all these great guests here and with the fantastic work that you're doing. I mean, let's be fair, mate. I would not be sat in front of this camera talking to you on this podcast if it wasn't for you, because you were the one that basically told me. I messaged you about 2 months ago saying, I'm thinking about starting my own YouTube channel to talk about wrestling and mental health. And you said, stop talking about it, just fucking do it.
Yeah.
And honestly, mate, I can't thank you enough. You are basically the reason why I'm on this podcast now. So all I've got to say to you is thank you, mate.
You're more than welcome. And like I said, there's a couple of people who've done the same thing thanks to me. But I'm always just thinking, look, I just do what I like to do. If I can influence one person, 2 people, I've done my job. Do you know what I mean? And stuff like that. That's the way I see it.
Definitely. Just going off what we've just been talking about, quick shout out to our friend Tiffany, who was just commented this down below.
Wrestling is about taking my friends in, actually, anyway, kind of more of an escape. I have to agree, yeah, because like the weird thing is, I mean, I've done times where I've had like a bad day at work and stuff like that, and I come on and talk to guests and stuff like that, and by then I'm like, wow, it's weird how it all works, you know what I mean? Unless you're like doing podcasts, I mean, you're just starting your journey out. It's weird how it makes you feel after.
Definitely, mate. I mean, like you said, you have a crap day at work, you've fallen out with someone in your family or whatever, and you don't know what to do with this emotion. So then you jump on a podcast, you talk to someone online, and then you come on after feeling a lot better. I mean, I personally do. I know that you just said that you do. So it's obviously we're not saying for everyone to start a podcast, because there'll be 10.5 billion podcasts every 2 minutes and nobody will be able to watch anything. But it's just nice to be able to come on these sort of podcasts and just talk about things and get things off your chest, if you like.
And that's the one thing I like to do, obviously, with a podcast as well, is like, I mean, the biggest thing obviously in the rise at the minute is show for 3. And the idea is when I get guests on that, they all say the same thing, going, so what we're talking about, stuff like that. I'm like, look, I'm not giving you no direction on this. Do you know what I mean? This is unrestricted. no filters. You're just going to be on the show. You can talk about what you want. And like to sit backstage, as obviously as we know and stuff like that, it's just great to obviously see, just 3 friends just talking about whatever they want. And it's just no restriction. It's just brilliant.
It is, mate. In particular, I enjoyed it when you invited me onto your one the other week with Haney, where we got to review British wrestling, and in particular there was that match with Hannah Taylor, I believe her name is.
Yep.
Where she had her first match back after she'd had a stroke, which quite personal to me. For those that don't know, I suffered with Bell's palsy. I still do now. It's a disease where muscle in either one or both sides of your face shut down mostly because of ear infection. So to hear someone go through something as bad as a stroke and then be told they might not walk again, they might never wrestle again, for her to then come back and actually do what she wants to do, it was just incredible. I know that a lot of people have experienced either the family or the friends have had strokes, or they personally have experienced strokes. So it was just really hit home for me that someone that strong can do something that incredible. I know that you felt the same.
Absolutely. Can I just add to that what you've just said there, by the way? And there was 2 wrestlers in that match you were on about. It's on the Magic of Wrestling channel if you're going to watch it. Regina and Hannah and stuff like that. Now, I can confirm that Regina will be on our show. And then, of course, Hannah Taylor herself will be on the show. So stay tuned for that. So I'm excited to obviously talk about that, because Hannah's never spoke about that in public and first. And I want to know, what kept her going, because it's 2 life-changing things. You mentioned, obviously, the stroke, but also the heart surgery as well.
Yeah, definitely. And I'm really hoping that Hannah answers my DMs and will come on my show as well, because I'd really like to talk to her about I'd really like to talk to her in this capacity as well. So I'm hoping, praying to the God of Liam, that he can persuade her to come on my show.
Yeah, but she did actually, when we actually shared the actual match, she did obviously post something about it, if you remember.
Yeah, I believe that she replied to it, saying that she was very grateful for his nice comments, which it's always nice for people to, like, such as herself, to actually see the appreciation that people like us give to her. I know that myself, you and Haney, we all got quite emotional watching that match. It's quite odd to see Haney get emotional about stuff, because he usually just calls Young Bucks pricks and slaps off Kenny Omega every 2 minutes.
But yeah, I mean, it's a great match, you know what I mean? Like I said, but the weird thing is, I remember when we obviously, I put the match on, and I didn't tell you any context other than what obviously Hannah went through and stuff like that. So all you knew that she obviously what she suffered and stuff. So, but even to watch that match, like we said, we didn't care about the outcome. Do you know what I mean? We were just more in awe about what obviously getting back in there.
Definitely, mate. It takes a very, very strong person to be able to have that much of a traumatic episode happen to themselves. Obviously, first with the stroke, then with the heart surgery, and for them to turn around and say, "I'm not stopping. I'm going to carry on what I'm doing because I love to wrestle." And the fact that she's come back, and Regina gave us such a great match as well, and they played off each other so well. You could see the chemistry between them was so good. It was just an absolutely amazing thing to watch.
I'm actually excited to see what Regina actually says about it, because, like I said, she's on the show and stuff like that. And like I said, if anyone's not seen the story of Hannah Taylor, go check it out. Like I said, I know she's got a documentary coming out with it, and she's back in wrestling now again as well. So follow her story, because it's just remarkable. And like I said, I know it's obviously, personal to you as well.
Definitely, mate. I'll try my best to find a link, and once we've done this, I'll put it in the link description. So, next question for you, mate, is: have you ever connected with a particular wrestler's struggle or triumphs on a more personal level, and how did that make you feel?
Oh, Jesus. Have I ever connected? Oh. That's tough, because I like so many wrestlers, you know what I mean? Jesus. That's actually stumped me, because, like I said, there's so many wrestlers you can connect with, you know what I mean? I mean, I'm going to have to go back to that one, because I cannot think, do you know what I mean? Because there's so many wrestlers you could really connect with, do you know?
Of course, mate. If I can throw one out, this is going to sound like a bit of a cliche, but Bray Wyatt were always one that I connected to on a personal level, just because when he came back for his final run, obviously with Uncle Howdy, when he did the promo in the ring, when he first came back, he said, "This is just me, genuine me." Basically, lost it. His very close friends, obviously, Luke Harper passed away. Rest in peace to him. He also lost another friend as well, close family. He's lost a lot of people. He lost himself, which obviously that triggers with mental health as well. It's just
actually, I've got one now. Now you've said that, I've got one.
Go on.
Well, I'll let you finish up. Say what you said, then I'll see what I think.
I'll finish. You go ahead.
It might be a weird one, but listen, go with me, right? Cody Rhodes.
Yeah, definitely.
Goes away, obviously, after wrestling and stuff like that, reinvents yourself, comes back a hell of a lot stronger person.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, started off his own company. Crowd ended up turning against him, even though he's put all that hard work and effort into it. Then he ends up coming back to a place that didn't want him initially. I mean, I love that. I love that line, from undesirable to ungoddamn deniable. That is perfect for me. That describes Cody Rhodes down to the nib.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to say Cody Rhodes. Like I said, I checked out of wrestling and stuff like that. You start obviously like trying to like reinvent yourself. You go through a bad patch, you come back to where it all first started, wrestling, and reinvent yourself. And like I said, yeah, I'm gonna have to say Cody Rhodes. It's weird that actually, Jones, you was talking about Bray.
Yeah. Well, what's weird is Cody was Bray's pro in NXT, which is always which I always find quite good. So moving on. Next, have you noticed any discussions or increased awareness around mental health within the wrestling community or among wrestlers themselves? And what are your thoughts on this?
Yes. I won't say every single week, but every month I see wrestlers on Twitter. I'm not also going to name them because I don't like to do that, where they'll put a post out saying that I've got to step away because obviously the mental health and stuff like that. And it makes you think, do you know what I mean? It's like, they're not just wrestlers. Do you know what I mean? This is obviously from even the big leagues. They're like us. Do you know what I mean? They've got hearts, they've got souls, they've got stuff like that. And I want to throw a question at you, actually. Do you think I see them more from male or female?
I'd probably definitely say female, just because obviously females are vilified a lot more easily in wrestling. Obviously, as we know, Rhea Ripley, before a match against Becky Lynch at WrestleMania 40, she ended up having an anxiety attack, panic attack, to which CM Punk walked up to her and just said, "Just be you, kick some ass, show them who you are." And that helped her get through that match, which was most likely the biggest match of her career. And she absolutely killed it, in my opinion.
No, you're absolutely spot on. I do see them a lot from obviously the female side of wrestlers. And I think you've said it best there. Do you know what I mean? They get more like scrutinized, for many different things. I've even had it again where somebody's been on the show and months down the line, they've had to step away from wrestling for that exact reason. I mean, we even see it in the big leagues. I mean, Kylie Ray is probably a prime example.
Yeah, definitely, mate. I want to throw another one out there. Saraya or Paige, when she was in WWE and then she left, there's obviously all that scandal about her doing videos with other wrestlers and what have you, and being involved with Alberto El Patron or Alberto Del Rio for WWE fans. And then she ended up going to AEW. And then every single bit of time that she's been in AEW, she's just been constantly vilified, constantly slagged off, constantly used for bullying about how she looks, the fact that she's had plastic surgery, the fact that she's had to quit because of her neck issues and this, that, and other. So it just really makes you wonder why people feel the need to take someone down because they feel as though it makes them better.
And that's the biggest problem, though, with wrestling these days is social media, in which that could be a whole debate in itself.
I completely agree with that one, Liam. If I'm honest, I think that social media, for all the great that it does for the world, for all the great it does for people individually, it is the single biggest criminal in the world.
100%. Yeah, I mean, it's good to obviously get wrestlers noticed from like one country to another, But on the other hand, like I said, I mean, you could see a post from like a wrestler, like, you know, working out at the gym, and I can almost guarantee you'll slide so far down, you'll see a comment saying, "Oh, do you know, like basically body." I mean, the prime example. I mean, look at Cora Jade. Do you know what I mean? She said she obviously got body shamed, you know, and stuff like that. So it's just annoying to think about. And like I said, the social media thing is a big problem. I've said it all along. It does have its good points, don't get me wrong, but it has a lot of bad points as well.
Definitely, mate. Definitely. It's kind of like a double-edged sword in a way if you think about it, because no matter what good people do in the community, there's always 5,000 idiots that want to just crucify people and just want to make themselves be better. I always go back to the saying of, just because you blow someone else's candle out doesn't make yours burn any brighter.
I think that's well said. I think that's really spot on. And I think also, as well, as you were just talking there, is, I mean, I've interviewed, like, I'm coming up now 90 like interviews and stuff like that. And what people don't realize is, I mean, we said it earlier, like, they've got lives and stuff like that, but they've also got their own things. I mean, I've spoken to wrestlers with like ADHD, do you know what I mean? Like diabetic type 2, do you know, suffering this, suffering that. But it doesn't change who that person actually is, do you know what I mean?
Exactly, mate. It's like you say, these wrestlers, no matter how big they are, no matter how famous, they're still people at the end of the day. I mean, you look at Roman Reigns, well, probably the biggest star in the world of wrestling at the minute, and the guy nearly died because he's got leukemia.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that's basically like watching Superman die, in my opinion.
Yeah.
But then you also look at wrestlers from our era, like HBK, Triple H, Undertaker, throw out a couple more off the top of my head, Booker T, people like them, Kevin Nash, Scott Hall. You look at what they look like now. Obviously, can't see Scott Hall because he passed away the other year. But you look at all those guys, and they're like in the late 60s, 70s, nearly 80s sort of thing, and you're thinking, when we watch these guys, they look like they were in the 20s, and they looked really young, really fit, and really just like they looked larger than life. Like they looked as though they'd never get old, especially Undertaker, because for God's sake, he was in the business for nearly 40 years and he looked like he'd never grow old.
No, exactly. Absolutely.
So, next question, mate. Do you think the often larger-than-life personas of wrestlers can sometimes mask potential mental health struggles?
Yes. It's one of those things, right? And it's in everyday life. You go out, obviously, you go to work and stuff like that. You put on a mask, you know what I mean? You try and be the happy person you are. And we do see this a lot. I mean, sometimes, like I said, when I talked about what I went through, you put that mask on, do you know what I mean? Where you try to be the happy person you are. But when you come home, do you know, like you're laying in your bed, you don't have to put that mask on anymore. So then you start to think, you start to overthink, and then you start to like question yourself, doubt yourself. And again, like I said, it's on in front. People only see in front of the camera sense. They don't see what obviously, you know, goes behind it.
Definitely, mate. I completely agree with that, Mud. It's quite a frightening thing if you think about it. Obviously, people go through problems with mental health, not just with mental health, but also like with addiction. I mean, you look at the story with Jake the Snake Roberts, what he went through with addiction when he had problems with addiction and things like that. Obviously, as we know, Eddie Guerrero, rest in peace to him. He suffered with addiction as well. You got Chris Benoit, who went through the problems that he went through as well. I mean, you even talk about someone up to date like Randy Orton, who back in when he was first starting out, he had problems with addiction too, and that is still another part of mental health problems as well, even though it is a physical problem, because at the end of the day, addiction is what's in your head.
Yeah, and it's not easy to overcome. Do you know what I mean? Look at Jeff Hardy; that's a prime example.
Definitely, mate. That is a fantastic example. So, next question, bud. Have you ever seen a storyline or a wrestler's personal story touch on themes related to mental health, and what impact did that have on you?
We just talked about it then, the Jeff Hardy thing and stuff like that. Now, do you remember Victory Road 2011? Or you may have heard of this?
Yeah, against Sting, with the famous thing where Eric Bischoff came down and told him, "You're dropping the title. Sting's going to pin you in 3 seconds."
Yes, that's the one. So it's weird because I remember watching that storyline, and at the time I didn't understand wrestling that much, and I'm watching it as a fan going, something's not right here. He looks completely out on it and stuff like that. And obviously, I was watching TNA heavily around that actual time, and I'm just like, I know, you know, when you just know yourself, there's just something not right here and stuff like that. And then obviously you start to look into it, and you're like, if that was me in that predicament, I would have fired Jeff Hardy on the thingy immediately. Do you know what I mean? It's unprofessional. He's putting himself in danger, Sting in danger, everyone around him in danger. But they brought him back, and for me, watching it, I'm going, I felt aggravated because I'm just like, he could have, he could have really, like I said, a lot of people just in that situation alone. Do you know what I mean? Like I said, he got high as a fucking kite, straight to the point and stuff like that. You could have hurt Sting, you could have hurt the referee, you could have hurt the announcer, even the fans. You know what I mean? When you're in that mindset where you don't know what you're doing, anything could happen. And yeah, that whole storyline really frustrated me. And I did obviously tune out to TNA after that.
Definitely, mate. I mean, I don't know about you, but growing up, I idolized Jeff Hardy. I thought he were probably the best thing in WWE for me. I think he should have been multiple heavyweight champion, but obviously his personal demons got in the way. Problems with drinking, with drugs, with obviously just all the bad things that he did behind the scenes. But I absolutely loved Jeff Hardy when I was a kid. Just want to pull this comment up by his good friend Tiffany as well. What happened with Jeff made me so sad, broke my heart. I completely agree with Tiffany there. Like I said, Jeff Hardy was one of my childhood heroes when I was growing up.
100%, stuff like that.
Fantastic, mate. So, last couple of questions, bud. As a fan, do you think there's a responsibility for the wrestling industry or the fans themselves to be more mindful of the mental well-being of performers?
I think that works. Again, I think that's a double-edged sword. I think that one works obviously to the wrestlers themselves. Do you know what I mean? And then also works. I think for the big companies, yes. I think obviously the companies should, be there for wrestlers because at the end of the day, there might be, as they call them, contracted like people and stuff like that, but they're still in your like vicinity and stuff like that. So yeah, 100%. Do you know what I mean? I think the big companies should be that support. In the terms, obviously, the UK scene is a little bit different because it's like I said, there's loads of promotions. I think there should be something there for like wrestlers, like, do you know what I mean, to speak how they're feeling and stuff like that. Basically, have that support.
Definitely, completely agree with you on that one, mate. So, next one, mate. What do you think the wrestling community could do to create a more supportive and understanding environment around mental health?
I think not judging. Do you know what I mean? Not judging people. Do you know, like based on what they believe or what they think and stuff like that. Yeah, I think that's the key thing. Do you know what I mean? Not judging people because we know as fans. I mean, I know Tiffany will probably know this as well. Is the wrestling community can be pretty toxic. You can have an opinion on one thing and get shut down just like that, and that's annoying. This is why I wanted to create obviously the thing with the magic of wrestling where people can have their opinion and not be judged. So I think it's like I said, people understanding, that people are not going to agree with you obviously on the same things. Do you know what I mean? But that's what makes wrestling wrestling. Like I'll have things which I agree on, which you agree on, and vice versa.
Definitely, mate. Definitely. I mean, it goes back to the old saying: opinions are like arseholes. Everyone's got one.
Yeah. Okay.
So, got 3 questions left, bud. First thing is, have you ever discussed mental health with other wrestling fans, and what has that been like?
No, I haven't. Straight to the point. No, I haven't. Do you know what I mean? I've not. I don't think it's not the fact I've not had to. It's just I was so focused on, getting myself in a better mindset after, like I said, what happened, that I didn't think of that. Do you know what I mean? So, no, I haven't. I'll be honest with you.
Absolutely no worries, mate. Like straight to the point. So, looking ahead, what are your hopes for the future of professional wrestling in terms of how it addresses or acknowledges mental health, both on the big leagues and on the indie scenes?
That people can speak out about it. Do you know what I mean? I feel like there's a lot of wrestlers from obviously the big leagues, the small leagues, and not small leagues, like the indie scene as we call it, and even everything, where they feel like they want to speak up, but they're going to get judged and stuff like that. And it kind of leads back to what we said earlier on: is like us. Do you know what I mean? They are normal people. They've got mindsets. They've got hearts. They've got families. You know what I mean? They've got absolutely everything. They're just like us. Yeah, they might obviously got a job where they've got to entertain us and stuff like that, but they are still human beings.
Definitely. Love that answer, mate. Really do love that answer. So last question, bud. I'll let you go to sleep. Is there anything you wish more people understood about being a wrestling fan and the emotional connection it can bring?
Wow. Again, it all comes to full circle. And I know I keep repeating myself, but it all links in. Do you know what I mean? It's building that community up. Do you know what I mean? Going to obviously shows. Do you know what I mean? Having opinions and stuff like that. Like sharing your opinions with friends and stuff like that, but always on the basis that you're not going to agree with everything. Do you know what I mean? That's the world we live in. That's wrestling as a whole. We're not always going to agree on everything. If we all agreed on the same thing, it'd be a boring wrestling thing. Let's be honest.
Yeah, be a boring world.
There you go. That's what makes wrestling wrestling. Do you know what I mean? That we can agree on things, we can disagree on things, we can get invested on storylines, we can do this, we can do that. Do you know what I mean? So I was read what Tiffany said then.
Yeah, she put absolutely.
Absolutely.
Agreeing with you.
And that's pretty much it, mate, really.
Yeah, fantastic, mate. So that's the end of this interview, Liam. Really appreciate you coming on, bud. For those of you guys out there that have watched this, thank you for watching, especially Tiffany. I know that you're watching because you keep commenting, and I love you for it, love. Hopefully we can get Tiffany on the pod sometime. I mean, I've only heard Tiffany speak once on a voice note, and that's about it. So it'd be nice to actually hear Tiffany talk and hopefully get her on the show if she's up for it. What she's saying.
This was really nice. It was, you know what I mean? Just nice little chilled.
This is the sort of thing that I'd like to do moving forward, to be honest. I'd like to get more people on just to talk about, obviously, their experience in wrestling, obviously, mental health-wise as well, how it's helped them, and what they think that wrestling as a community and as a whole we can do to better ourselves and better others. So we're going to put a stop to it there, guys, for today. Again, massive thanks to Liam from the Magic of Wrestling podcast. If you're not seen Liam before, what the hell are you doing? Go check him out. I'll put a link to his channel in the description below. Also, so got it here from Tiffany. Yeah, I hope to be on. So we've got it there in writing. Tiffany wants to come on the pod, so I really appreciate that, Tiffany.
What I'll do is I'll put it on, obviously, on my Instagram as well, so people can jump from my Instagram to this to go and watch it.
Yeah, fantastic, mate. So yeah, last words to you, mate. Is there anything that you want to say to people out there?
Yeah, I mean, one of the biggest quotes I've always said, and it kind of leads everything we've said today kind of comes full circle, what we've always said. And I've always said, in a world where you can be anything, be nice, because the world is always full of assholes, idiots, cunts, whatever you want to call them. And that's the thing. There's a lot of nice people out there. The thing is not as toxic as some people think. You've just got to find, the decent ones.
Couldn't put it any better myself, mate. Thanks, guys, for joining us. This has been Wrestle Wellbeing. I've been James. That's been Liam. That's been Liam. Hope that you've enjoyed this video. If you did, make sure to give it a like, share with your friends. Like we said at the beginning of the video, if you or someone is struggling, please reach out to them. Please get them the help that they need. Please get the help that you need. I hope that this is giving people a bit of enlightenment as to two guys' mental health within wrestling just as a whole. I mean, we can probably talk forever, but at the end of the day, people don't.
Not even guys though, as well. Not guys as well, girls as well.
Definitely, mate. Absolutely anybody that's struggling with mental health. At the end of the day, you need to reach out to get help, because there's a help out there. It's just a case of actually finding it. So that's all for me today, guys. That's all from Liam. Liam, do you want to say bye?
Cheers, guys. Thanks for watching.
Cheers, guys. Thanks for watching. Take care.